Hello, welcome. I'm Natalie. Let's talk about money. So, today we're going to talk about something a little different. We're going to talk about living in storage units. This is something that has come across my feed because I was watching a woman who bought a house for $1, and so she was renovating it. So, somehow that means now I want to live in a storage unit. So, I keep getting those types of videos. But I thought it was interesting because I know people do it. I know it doesn't seem like an option, but I know it's an option. Similar to living in your car or living, in a van or living in a tiny house or a storage shed. I work for a shed company, and so I'm well aware of people making sheds into tiny homes. It is something we actually, as a company, do not stand behind because of the local municipalities that call it illegal. So, anyway, that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to tackle this kind of tough topic that people are dealing with, and that's basically just housing insecurity. And specifically, again, I want to talk about why living in a storage unit is not a safe or even a legal solution. And more importantly, what can you do if you're facing homelessness or financial hardship or, housing insecurity, basically? What can you do? So, if we're being honest, if you're considering living in a storage unit, things are probably pretty tough and you're probably in a tough situation. I mean, that's just the reality of it if you're considering living in a storage unit. And that's perfectly okay because all of us go through rough times in our lives. That's just a part of life. You're going to hit a hard spot, and that's just what's going to happen. And how you handle that hard spot or that tough time is what makes you the person you then become in the future. So you're not alone if you're going through this now, or if you've been through it in the past, or you're thinking about going through it in the future. So I want to touch on a few reasons why living in the storage unit is probably not the best idea that you can come up with. And, the most important perhaps is that it's actually illegal. In 99% of the storage units you're going to rent, it's going to have a clause in there that says you're not allowed to live there. That's just the way it is. You're not allowed to live there. Even in my company's warranties that we provide on our sheds, it actually says the sheds are not meant to be habitable. They're not meant to be turned into something habitable. And we drop the warranty as soon as you start modifying it. So, spaces like these are not meant to be livable spaces or habitable spaces unless you have accommodations that will work. Now, if you are caught living in your storage unit at, U-Haul or what, I don't know what they're called. I don't know what the different storage companies are. All I can think of is U-Haul because that's one that's down the street. But if you are caught in one of these, the company who runs that business has their option of what they're going to do. So are they going to call the police and have you arrested, which I've seen on some of the videos, or are they going to ask that you just remove all your stuff and your lease is over? Or are they going to ignore it? Because there are those companies that will just ignore it. As long as you pay on time, as long as you're clean, you don't make noise, you don't disturb anything, some units will just ignore it. I don't know that that's the right answer either, to tell you the truth. Now, one thing to consider is that living in a storage unit can be dangerous or can be unsafe. Because if, I'm assuming, and I've never lived in a storage unit of any sort, but I'm assuming you need electricity. That's just what I'm assuming. And so, in my opinion, I'm guessing that you're probably getting the electricity from outside of your storage unit because most storage units are not going to have power within them. Some may, but most will not. And so if you're doing that, that means you're running extension cords here and there, and what you're plugging into that extension cord could cause problems. It could overheat. If the watts are too high or too low, so there could be problems. It could actually be dangerous. But also just the basics of the temperature. So if you're thinking about living in a storage unit of any sort, you do absolutely need to rent one that is temperature controlled. That will help knock out half of the problem right there. Now, if you are in just someone's, you live out in the country somewhere and they have storage units on the side of the road, they're not heated, they're not cold, they're not anything. It's just a metal pole building with walls in between each storage unit. That's not safe. If it's too hot or too cold, it can cause extreme problems, even death. So keep that in mind. You do want to have somewhere where you can actually stay. If you're going to try to live somewhere where you can actually stay there throughout the night, 8 hours or what have you. Also, water. What about your plumbing? How are you going to go to the bathroom? How are you going to take a shower? Most people that are homeless, that are living in a car or living in a storage unit or living in a shed or whatever, they're using the local gym because they have a gym membership. They're using that for the shower and the restroom and all of that. But what if you need more than that? So that's another reason why there's no plumbing. And another problem that I see is that you are isolated. So what happens if you actually do run into a problem? What happens if some random person who owns a different storage unit or is renting a different storage unit, somehow you get into an argument, you get into a fight or something like that? How do you reach out to people? What about if you're in your storage unit and you get sick and have, God forbid, a heart attack or a diabetic reaction? That would be my instance. I'd have a diabetic reaction and I wouldn't have a juice box and I'd be over there struggling. Typically within a storage unit itself, typically your cell phone doesn't work unless the door is open and there's some Wi-Fi that's going through. So you want to make sure that you do have access so that you can contact someone outside of the storage unit. Now, with this isolation, you also don't have an address. And so if you have a friend or family member where you can use their address to mail to, that is always helpful. Now, hopefully, if you're living or trying to live out of a storage unit, you don't have a whole lot of bills that are coming to you, but perhaps you have job offers that are coming to you. And how are you going to get to those? And if you have a family or friend or family member who could take your mail, maybe you rent a room from them instead of using a storage unit as your home. So it's, being this isolation is difficult. Of course it's an option, but it is difficult. And again, it is illegal. Now, the main thing though, is that it's not a long-term fix. Sometimes we just need a month to get back up on our feet, get everything together, move to the next place or whatever. Maybe you were kicked out of a place and so you have nowhere to go, but you applied for a new place and that place won't be ready until the following month. So you have to use a storage unit to live in for just that month. That can work maybe, but it's still illegal. And you still have to think about all these other things. And, when you're in a storage unit, if you're living in a storage unit, you have to think about it. That's not what the storage unit is meant for. And you're having to hide where you live from everyone around you, the people in the storage unit, the management of the storage unit, probably your friends and family. You're hiding it. Now, there's people all over TikTok and Instagram and all these things that are doing these videos. When they get evicted from their storage unit, we're not going to hear about that part. So just keep in mind, if you're going to do this, you do have to hide it in order to make it so that it is available for you. If you're going to live there for more than a week or two, you got to really think this through and think about how you're going to get through this seriously. It's not something I would recommend. So what are your options if you're facing some kind of homelessness situation or an eviction? Evictions are happening. There are some alternatives, even if they're not ideal. They are steps forward. They are steps that can get you going forward where you need to go. So, of course, there are emergency shelters. People don't want to go to an emergency shelter. People don't want to go to a homeless shelter. And I get it. I understand it. It's humbling. It makes you feel like you've done something wrong or something bad. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. It doesn't matter. What matters is how are you going to get to the next day or the next week or the next month. That's what matters. So perhaps an emergency shelter can help you in the meanwhile. If you only need 2 weeks to get yourself back up on your feet and get going again, maybe an emergency shelter is where you go and where you turn to, and maybe they can provide help for you. Then there are also traditional housing programs. So, and the last one, the emergency shelters, remember there's the phone number that you can call, which is 211, which also has a website. It's 211.org. They have assistance there that can help you get going and help you move to the next step of your life. Okay, now back to transitional housing. So there are programs that offer transitional housing where you can live there for, again, a couple weeks, maybe a couple months. Some are up to 24 months. So there are these types of programs. So what I did is I actually searched, just regular Google search, I searched transitional housing, and all sorts of companies in my local area popped up. So I didn't go to each one to figure out what all the stipulations are, But if I were in a situation where we're going to be homeless, that may be one of the first options you choose, is just go to Google and see what options you have that may be available for you. And the next one is living in your vehicle. Now, this is illegal in many areas. However, there are some states, Texas is one of them, that has what they consider safe parking programs. And this is where you can go and sleep in your car overnight for many nights or many weeks or maybe just one night. So this is a program that is in many cities around the country. So if you go to vehicleresidency.org, that's what I checked out, and it did seem valid. I did see many websites for where I am in Dallas, Texas. And so if you search vehicleresidency.org, they may be able to provide assistance for you. And if you do that type of program, you will then at least have access to bathrooms and security and maybe even help. So maybe even some sort of case management type of service that could help you get, again, to your next step in your life. Now, the easy option, there are some what we can consider easy options. Now, they're not easy if you're actually doing it, but it seems some of the easiest options that are out there is couch surfing or roommate options. So there is actually a website, couchsurfing.com. Now, I got stuck on this website because as soon as you go to the website, you have to give them your information. You have to give them create a login, basically. I don't like creating logins all around the world because my delete me program is filled already. I don't need more places that I'm going to have to get deleted from. And there's also roommates.com. And those type of companies can help guide you or connect you with people who are looking for the same thing. They're looking for a roommate. They're looking for someone that just needs a place to live for a week. They want, they have their couch available or their spare bedroom or whatever available. Airbnb is another one that's more expensive, but that's more of a longer term, like week or longer, where it is safe places. Again, it's more expensive. So if money is an issue, that's probably not an option. But maybe the couchsurfing.com or the roommates.com option may be an option that can work for you. Now, if you were to do any of these types of programs, you should, of course, meet the person in public, at Starbucks or at Chili's, out in public, where there's no concern of safety. And make sure you actually ask good questions. Don't just go and say, oh yeah, I'm looking for a place to live. Do you have a place to live? Yeah, I have a place to live. Okay, well, I'll be over at 6. Don't, ask questions. Ask about the offer that they have. Ask what the background is on that offer and see if it's something that you're interested in. As you start asking questions, more questions will probably come up. You want to make sure that they're aware of how long you need the space for, and you have to feel safe. Let your gut guide you on these type of transactions, because if your gut is telling you no, listen to that. There will be other options available for you. Listen to your gut, especially in these situations that can be a little dangerous sometimes. And then last is just the standard head to the government or nonprofit help. So a lot of times you can qualify for emergency housing vouchers or rental assistance or even utility help. Now, the whole government thing that's happening right now, they're talking about Section 8 and abolishing Section 8 and all the things, but there are still going to be programs for people that are valid, not sleep on your couch every day for the rest of your life type of people. If you have a job, even if it's a low-paying job, if you have a job that you go do and you go work at, some of these programs can definitely help you. And then naturally reach out to your local charities and to your local programs. Salvation Army is one. When I used to be a reseller, we would go to Salvation Army to buy products to then resell on eBay. But Salvation Army has great programs to help the homeless and help resolve or at least assist with homelessness. Their website is www.salvationarmyusa.org/homelessness. I'll try to remember to link all of these sites down below so that you can click on them and get to them a little bit easier. So that's a lot of information. I know it's overwhelming, and I know it probably feels like there's no way out because now you're in this hole, and how do you get out of it? But you deserve to live with safety. You do not deserve to live in a place that makes you feel unsafe or makes you feel less than, because you are not less than. All of us reach hard times in life. It is just, again, a part of life. And so don't feel like you are not entitled to have a life. You may not be entitled to having something luxurious, because none of us are, but you are entitled to live a life that you can eat, sleep, and work. Okay, you are entitled to that at a minimum. And so living in a storage unit, it may seem like a quick fix, but it can get you into deeper danger, and it can actually get you into trouble. I've seen videos where people have actually gotten arrested because the storage unit people actually turn them in. So keep in mind, there are people and programs that are out there to help, even if it takes a few tries. If your first try doesn't work, try a different company, try another phone call, try to speak with someone else. It's worth your time to make sure that you have somewhere safe to lay your head at night or during the day. Now, of course, if you know someone who is struggling, check the links that I'm going to try to put down below, and also just check the national and local resources that are available in your area. If you've been through something like this and want to just share what helped you, share what program maybe got you out of the trouble that you may have been in, drop it down in the comments. We'd love to hear the story. And make sure that if you are having trouble, if you are in a hard place, make sure that you are working on yourself, which may mean you have to spend a couple more minutes or a couple more hours each day working on how are you going to fix your situation. It's not going to be fixed overnight. Most of the time it's not. Sometimes it's going to take a month. Sometimes it's going to take many months to get out of a difficult situation. But you have to be the one to work on it. No one is going to snap their fingers and fix the problem for you. I'm going to ask that you invest in yourself today so you can make a difference for others tomorrow. And perhaps investing today means searching some of these websites and figuring out a way that's going to be best for you, your friend, your cousin, your uncle, a program for them that could help them. And then also give the video a big thumbs up, leave a comment down below. Be sure to subscribe. When you subscribe, you should hit the bell so you know when the next video comes out. I thank you so much today for stopping by, and y'all have a great one.